Greetings, it is I, Broderick Wallace, and I am joined once again by
Samuel Conor
for the Ayahuasca Journal, episode 4.
Yeah,
4. And even though we're on episode 4, this is actually the second session. How many sessions did we do in the end?
I remember there being 6.
5 I've got here, and then the last one I didn't write up actually because it was kind of non-eventful except for one major thing for me really. So I can definitely remember that. So we'll be fine when we get to that because it didn't work, did it? It did what it did in a very, very subtle way.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll get to that eventually. So we've covered the first one, which was obviously a massive head trip because it's like, you know, your first experience on ayahuasca. And I mean, if you've watched the first 3, and you should, if you're watching this video, you should have watched the first 3 because obviously this video will make more sense. And I will put them all into, you know, one playlist. So we'll see how far we get today. And what we've done, again, we haven't talked about this, you know, since the night, you know, in a way that is systematic. In other words, we haven't talked about it today. We've literally just sat here, and there's no rush. So we're going to try and recount what happened on the second session, and if we move beyond that within this video, that's great. So first of all, I should say this video is dedicated to a YouTuber called @user-VD2NL8QB5T, who actually asked, when are you going to do the next one? So thanks @user-VD2NL8QB5T. That's awesome, mate. I appreciate that. I'll just call you user for short, okay? Cheers, user. Right. The second session. And we've just had a massive roast dinner cooked once again by Samuel Conor's lovely wife, so we're a bit heavy, but at the same time kind of satisfied. A bit like, you know, how you'd imagine a snake would just slowly, you know, digest a large rabbit or something. So that's how I feel right now. Lethargic, but strangely happy. What am I doing? Anyway, right, second session. Right, we couldn't remember what month this was, so we decided it was probably February, but we know that the day is the 16th. So, right, we'll say February because it's very likely true. And the notes I have, let me just have a sip of tea, if I can bend down and get it. So I'll read the session notes first, which go on for about 5 pages actually. So weaker, not made right, 2 days old. We thought that it wasn't made right. Okay.
Yeah.
She said, no moon, new moon, so feminine energy low. Best in moon of Taurus. She wrapped around my neck, scanned my mind, my feet hurting, my brain. Meditation in brackets. Saw my struggles. I saw her body. Snake, beautiful rainbow serpent. She knew I was worried about a girl. Oh God. She was so loving. I love her. Oh, how sweet I am. So much. Saw blue eye. Oh, the blue eye thing. Yep, we can talk about that definitely. And Neil. We both saw the blue eye. I saw a thundery sky. Thought thunderclap. Neil said, Thundercats. Telepathy. I drank 3 cups this time. Last time 2. Neil was sick again. I wasn't. I will eventually be sick though. I saw the umbilical again in Mayan art and surroundings. I was pronounced shaman. I felt honoured but felt bad for Neil not having, but bad for Neil not having mouthpiece connect. Oh, I felt bad for you because I wasn't connected as mouthpiece. Okay.
I see, yeah.
Such an experience. I said, show me what you really are. Oh, that'd be interesting. I saw her beyond the snake form. She was so massive, such an infinite intelligence. You can only see one part at a time. Pale green with rainbow, in brackets oily, of all colours across her body. Incandescent, is that the right word? Plant mathematics, body changing, many growths and shapes. Lovecraftian, saw many umbilicals, tentacles, that ended in different coloured lights. Each umbilical, in brackets light, I've got indigestion or something. Apologise. That meal. We should give your wife a magical name so we can blame her for this state that we're in. Yeah. Umbilical light was connected through the mouth of a living, in brackets, earthly shaman. I saw her adjust the frequency of feminine artistic influence to create different cultural styles. Yeah, that's cool, that bit. See, she said, I adjust the frequency to produce them. I saw them in her, Mayan, Japanese, Celtic, Afro, etc., etc. Was nearly sick, she stopped it. In a split second, sick to well? Oh, I went from sick to well in a split second. You will not be sick. I am staying inside you, she said. Shaman. Went to bed. Signal weak-ish. She tucked me in like a baby. I was her baby. She put a nipple umbilical in my mouth. I said something about mother issues. We won't go into that. It's kind of a bit too... We'll leave that out. She didn't listen. Surely. That must be a mistake. Oh no, she didn't listen when I was trying to say to her, what are you doing? Falling asleep. I was in the Amazon rainforest. I saw Indians in the forest. Leaves, green leaves. They had red face paint. They noticed me. Was I there in spirit? Astral travel? Interesting. Oh, it goes to the next day now. Next day. It's something about some dumb bitch. Don't need to go into that. She walked. Fine. What's that? Hang on. I felt her in my belly, in my mind. I crawled up the stairs, so tired. 6:30 in the evening. I felt she was saying, you are upset. You need to process the rejection. Yes, an instinct, edge of mind. I dreamed all night and more in deep, deep sleep. 11 hours sleep. I was in a room, a living room, in a chair. Softly comfy. Doilies and all things feminine. The room, like a mother's room with her. And I'll tell you what, I hope you're going to respect us here, because if we're talking about an ayahuasca session, what does ayahuasca do? It breaks you to pieces. All of your issues. So this might get a bit weird in moments. We won't stay on those points, but it would be dishonest not to, to include them, at least in a peripheral way. We've all got them, let's face it. Flashback at night. 5th of the 3rd, 18. Oh, so it was
5th of March, yeah.
March. So it was March then. Right, where's my pen? It's down somewhere. Oh, it's down here. It's on the floor in front of me. Right, so let's change that date to... oh no, so it was... If that's the 5th of March... All right, so it was the 16th of February.
Yeah.
And then there was a flashback at night on the 5th of March. Oh, so we were correct. Saw Aztec wheel and psychic vision of astral light before falling asleep. She came, showed me a butterfly and a knife, said, or I said, can't be sure, butter knife. That's her name. Her name is Butter Knife. That's the name that she wishes us to address her as by whatever. Okay, that's the notes for the second session, and just like the first time, we thought, oh God, can we really remember it? Is there much to talk about? And there's an absolute,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a beautiful,
a cacophony of interesting deep dives there, I think.
but this was all you this session, wasn't it? Because I remember when we did this, I remember being tired before we started. Then I couldn't keep the brew down, so I got no experience. Basically, got no experience. I just went to sleep on the floor. I was like semi-awake while you were having your experience. So, especially when one of you loses consciousness, it just all kind of closes in on the other one as well.
Yeah.
So you got like the full attention, didn't you, with this one? And
what I remember was
there.
you were really tired from overwork and time you put in at the gym.
Yeah.
You really wanted to do it, but when you'd done it, it was like, you need to rest, man.
Yeah.
Almost as if she was saying that to you.
See, she always gives you what you need, and under those circumstances, I needed rest, but she needed me to provide the brew for you. So it all worked out.
And that's why I'm writing here. I felt kind of bad for Neil, because like the whole thing sort of made me feel slightly bad and embarrassed. I was having the bulk of the experience, and Mr. Samuel. Right, we keep getting the names, but it don't matter. We've already come out online as being mental at this point, so you know the cat is out of the bag. Right, so yeah, so we'll start with, and you can go begin this with weaker, not made right, 2 days old.
Yeah, so the first brew, obviously we'll put this in terms of sort of, you know, what am I trying to say here? So in this
hypothetical story, if this happened, and it did, yeah, I mean, if it did, we have to play along because it's true.
I would say that the second brew was made with the same recipe, exactly the same method, but not quite as much time and maybe accuracy was put into the brewing. Also, perhaps that first one just happened to get something right. So what you do with the brewing, without going into too much detail, is that there's a certain process that happens and then it rests overnight. The next day it's recombined and rebrewed, basically. So, and that second process was done on the same day we consumed it. So in the morning, the process was finished. Then in the evening we took it. This one, it was done at the weekend, but then it was like several days later that we actually took it. So it wasn't as fresh, and I think that might have been something to do with the level of impact. But for me, it was just my stomach just couldn't keep it down. When you're tired, you just reject it. And there's also something spiritual going on here as well, that you're taking a medicine. So you're taking a medicine, taking the same medicine again. There's no point. Like you've had the medicine, which is information. It's actually sort of internal spiritual advice you get communicated to you through symbols, feeling, lots of, you know, like we see here, in a very unique way. If you don't take on board those lessons, if you don't follow the advice, the next time you try and do it, you'll be like, why is nothing happening? Or why did some circumstance occur whereby I couldn't do it or couldn't feel anything? Or it's like a bit someone giving you advice. If you don't take it, you don't get any more advice. You have to work with the advice you've already been given. So that's a roundabout way of saying I hadn't made enough adjustments. If I'd have come back and said, yeah, I've put those things right, I've concentrated, I've worked on that wisdom, then the experience might have been different. But under this circumstance, it was like, well, you've had yours. When you've sorted yourself out, you can come back and have another one, you know.
Yeah.
And this is why I actually believe, and obviously there'll be people out there that definitely contest this, but if you go on a retreat, an ayahuasca retreat, and you take it 5 times in a week or something, I don't think it's necessary. I think that you've got no time to take that back to your life and make those changes. So just once, and then, you know, you don't have to do it again for a long time unless you've changed a massive amount in your life. So it's a continuous improvement with the ayahuasca as medicine. But that's from a purely practical sense. Obviously, the experiences you're having you had, and seems to be a much more interesting spiritual journey that didn't seem to play into your mundane life. I got very kind of practical advice, you know.
And we've sort of touched on this before. Like, the reason is, it's because I do have this aspect of my character where I'm kind of a little bit of a loose cannon when it comes to chasing experience of the spirit world, and the spirit world knows that about me, and it's like, you. So like, you know, this kind of thing, it just and there's many people like this in the world. I mean, well, they're rare, you know, in society, if you like, but across the world, I'm sure there are people that can relate to that. You know, if you're hungry for contact, you get singled out, you know. And it was the excitement as well. It was the excitement, like, oh, we did this, it was amazing, and so we tried to do it sort of too quickly when we hadn't really quite processed the last one fully. We were kind of riding the wave, you know. So I remember we were sort of really excited about it coming on, but it didn't come on quite as strong. And the first thing I have in my notes is she's saying, there's no moon, like, you need the moon.
Yeah.
It's a new moon, so the feminine energy is low, and ayahuasca or butter knife is a feminine entity, so she requires more feminine energy in order to, you know, sustain herself in the vision. So what she went on to say was, I can't remember whether it was both of us, one of us, whatever, but she said the best time to take ayahuasca is when the moon is in Taurus. And as soon as she said that, like, it made sense to me. Like, of course, Taurus is a very physical sign, you know. So therefore, this moon energy is able to manifest on the physical plane more strongly, because you've got that conjunction between the dream world, if you like, of the moon and the earthy Taurus. Because I know everyone I know who is a Taurus, they're very down-to-earth people. They're very, very homely people. They're steady, earthy, you know. So a little tip here. If you're a meditator, just hit that full moon in Taurus with visual meditation, and you should feel the difference. So I've got now, she wrapped around my neck, scanned my mind, my feet hurting, my brain. Oh, she was scanning my brain. She was like, oh, you do a lot of meditation. She was like confirming that, like, your mind is beginning to crystallize in a different form. And, you know, bearing in mind, this is pre-session as well. So she's literally saying that 20 minutes twice a day that I did for, you know, a few years previous, that still obviously made a difference, that she could connect. And 20 minutes twice a day now is like, it's like child's play. So it just goes to show, even a little bit of meditation makes a difference, if you believe butter knife. Yeah. Saw my struggles, or that speaks for itself. I saw her body, snake, beautiful rainbow serpent. So again, we have this very common motif of ayahuasca or butter knife being a great big snake. And if you have or ever had pet snakes, you'll know that their skin has an iridescent quality where it reflects all the colours of the rainbow, and that is really vivid in the vision. And ayahuasca is a colourful experience, and And these colours seem to pertain to, you know, wavelengths. And that will come in perhaps in a, I don't know if it's the next or a future session where the colour disappears, but that's another story. That's where things get very strange. Excuse me, still processing this awesome roast dinner like a snake. She knew I was worried about a girl. Which one was that?
What year was this? 2018? 2018?
We can't say her name, obviously, but like, I don't even know. Saw blue. Right. So this was interesting. We had the telepathy or another telepathy incident where I was sitting there. I saw a massive blue eye, and you were like, I described that to you, and you're like, God, I've just been staring at a massive blue eye as well.
Mm.
And was it completely round to you? Because it was just completely round blue eye to me.
I can't remember at all.
Like it had no pupil, it was just solidly blue. Loving, yep. It's always a very loving experience. It's always like, you know, if you're in conversation with someone that you don't know that well and they just go too deep, too quick. Like that's nothing compared to ayahuasca. It's deeply uncomfortable. It really is a very painful experience. Next I saw a thundery sky, which means something to me now, actually. And I thought, thunderclap, the word thunderclap come into my mind. And then you said the word...
Thundercats.
Thundercats. Thunder, 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 thundercats. You know that one? Great.
It must have been affecting me in some way if I was...
Yeah, because I turned around, you was like, I was just thinking thunder, you said... So, again, you know, telepathy, yeah, it's not an inappropriate word for ayahuasca. I drank 3 cups this time, last time 2. We've already said that you went to throw up. I saw the umbilical again in Mayan art and surroundings. So we've got a theme going on here, which is ayahuasca becomes the mother of the tribe. And from her great body, if you like, there are these tubes that come down. And again, it's like if you have a tube going into your mouth and you're feeding, and she's a mother goddess, this is literally like breastfeeding. This is so intimate. I could actually feel, and I didn't write it down here, but I actually had experiences of like memories of being a baby as well. And I know I look like one right now. It's funny how we come back around. So I felt like I was having an insight into, you know, perhaps even, you know, hundreds of years ago, whatever, of you know, a tribe. I call them Mayans, but they might not have been Mayans. And I could see all of the Amerindians and the tubes coming down, and they were feeding off the tubes. And this is the point where it's like, I mean, this sounds a little bit self-serving. I'm a little bit embarrassed about this, but this is what happens. You know, she will pronounce you a shaman. You know, if you're that way inclined. I'm sure this has happened to many people that have taken it. I felt honoured, but bad for Neil because I wasn't mouthpiece. I wasn't connected. We weren't having that John D. Edward Kelly experience again, where I was like, ask me a question, and I was like connected to, you know, ayahuasca, and it was like I was literally like, just the words were just coming out in that explicit. What was the word that we coined? Explicit knowing.
Explicit knowing, yeah.
Talked about that a lot. That's very common in magic and psychedelics, this explicit knowing, whereby something is communicated to you symbolically that makes complete sense, even in extreme detail, in a way that isn't accessible to the normal consciousness. Obviously, we can look at a symbol, we'll get a download or whatever, but it's like, it's so full, it contains so much information without a word being spoken. Like the mind is just instantly impregnated with a massive amount of information. Right, we'll move to obviously butt in if there's anything you want to say. I said, show me what you really are. And obviously this is difficult for me because obviously my friend here was actually probably sleeping at this point. So we'll try and run through this a little bit quicker because I don't want to hog this, obviously. Show me what you really are, I said. Because again, that interest, it's like I want to know intimately. I want to see. I want this experience. I wanted to know what she was beyond the snake form. It says here she's massive, such an infinite intelligence. And we've already spoken before, although she seems like an infinite intelligence, she's tied to the earth and she can only see so far beyond the earth. So we were unable to talk about aliens, I remember, in the previous session. Mm. You can only see one part at a time. So this is, so when she gave me that experience of seeing her more fully, more closely, what I saw, and I'll just read the notes again to remind myself and get it more accurate. Pale green with rainbow, oily, all colours across her body, incandescent, plant mathematics, body changing. So what I saw was an amorphous, pale green blob that was so big that you can't see the whole thing. You can only see one section of it. It's impossible to take it in. And she is connected to all the people that she's interacted with. And her body was morphing and changing in this vision. And there were many growths and shapes like moving. So it is very the next word I've written here is Lovecraftian. There's something very Lovecraftian about the image behind the curtain. It's perhaps a little bit frightening. I saw many umbilicals, tentacles that ended in different coloured lights. Yeah, I remember that, the different coloured lights on the ends of these Lovecraftian, Cthulhu-esque tentacles, if you like. But definitely not, what's the adjective for octopus? Octopoid. Oh. They weren't octopoid. So I'll coin that word anyway. They weren't octopoid. Right, was connected through the mouth of a living... All right, so these umbilicals were connected in the mouths of shamans. I saw her adjust the frequency of feminine artistic influence to create different cultural styles. Yeah, so basically this only one section you can see of this amorphous blob with these tentacles that are going into the mouths of shamans. She said to me in that explicit knowing, watch as I adjust the frequency of the information that I am imparting into the spiritual intelligence of the, her people, if you like. So then I was shown, and this is very McKenna-esque in a way, I was shown Mayan art, because this is obviously, Mesoamerican, the, Ayahuasca, all that, South America, all that kind of thing. So I saw all of this Mayan, Aztec, Inca style art, and it was like a dial was turned and it turned into Japanese so fluidly. So if you imagine that, like if you look at some of the Mesoamerican art, like in the British Museum or whatever, you will see that it does have a slight Near Eastern flavour to it. So then she took this Japanese style, or Eastern whatever, and then just turned it into Celtic, again another, adjusting the dial. And then again adjusting, and it was beautiful to look at, I'm remembering it now. And then it turned into sub-Saharan African art styles. Was nearly sick. She stopped it. In a split second, I went from sick to well. You will not be sick. Yeah, come in.
Hi.
Okay.
Do you want some dessert?
We'd love some dessert.
Is that alright? Is it a good time?
Oh, don't worry, it's fine. Yeah,
Sure.
if you don't mind your voice being on the video.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to give you a magical name, by the way.
Okay.
So think about that while you're making the crumble.
I don't know.
Annabelle. I've just come up with Annabelle off the top of my head.
Okay, Annabelle, we would love apple crumble. Thank you. That'd be lovely.
And custard?
And custard.
Custard. Okay.
Right, where did we get to? Right, I was about to be sick in the toilet. So imagine that you're like violently ill, like just awful. And then all of a sudden, you're completely well. So I can feel her inside me. And she said, well, you're not going to be sick. I'm inside you. I've decided you're going to be fine. So that was really shocking to go from sick to well in a split second. So then I went to bed, and I guess you're next to me, dreaming away.
Somewhere.
Yeah, because we were in my old house. We had like camp beds, on different sides of the room, where we used to take the ayahuasca for all of the sessions except for the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the last one we actually went outdoors, but we'll get to that. Although there was a journey that we took from our house, which was inspired by communication here. Right. Went to bed, signal was weak, so the signal is dying away. And this is where I had this very deeply uncomfortable experience of like she was mothering me and kept trying to put something in my mouth, and it was like, what are you doing? Oh, gee, I'm a man. And but she wouldn't let up, wouldn't listen. So as I was going to sleep, I was sort of fighting this, But that proves the real love of this being, and it really is something to behold. It's to the point of being uncomfortable. It really is something. So falling asleep. This is when, just as I was on the edge of sleep, the ayahuasca came on again, as it does the coils of the serpent. And this is, you see, when you have these spiritual experiences on the liminal space, on the edge of sleep, it's not like a dream. It's too real. It's too colourful. This is not just a dream. And there was a deep knowing within me that I was actually seeing something actually happening in the rainforest at that moment. I can't prove it. I can't explain it. But I was convinced in this moment that I was seeing a scene within the rainforest where there were all these very bright sort of lime green leaves all around me. And I saw two Amazonian Indians, obviously properly tribal, where they have the come in, Annabelle. Oh, wonderful.
It's not quite crumbled, but I hope you like it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
You're a darling. Thank you.
Do you want that there?
Thank you.
It's a bit hot.
That's great.
Bye.
Thank you.
See ya. Right, so yeah, these two Amazonian tribal Indians with the red face paint, and they have that kind of bowl cut hairstyle, and they were looking at me and they were surprised. I was looking at them, I was surprised obviously, and it's as if I just had this feeling like this actually happened. I can't prove it, I don't know, but it felt like this actually happened, that I was able to. You imagine these two guys are walking through the rainforest, and as if you're not too urban, you'll know what I mean when I say this. You're walking through the woods, and all of a sudden, just get that feeling. So I imagine perhaps, in my, call it my fantasy or whatever, I felt that these two guys were walking through the Amazon, and they suddenly were aware of something as I was aware of them. I was there in spirit, astral travel, ? Interesting. So then we get to the next day. So we're both waking up. And this girl, whoever she was, wasn't interested. Oh, whatever. Felt ayahuasca in my belly. I crawled up the stairs. So I was extremely tired. I remember that. Yeah, I was just exhausted. That's when. So you imagine this is the day after, and it's like I can hear her in my head, and she's like, "We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this stuff." Yes, an instinct, edge of mind. I dreamed all night, and more in deep, deep, deep sleep. 11 hours sleep. So my mind is beginning to remember now that not only, like she was saying, we need to process this, and this long, a bit like Neil, Mr. Samuel Connor had his deep sleep the night before. Now it was my turn. This is coming back now. And this dream that I had the next night in this long 11-hour sleep was, I was sitting in a room, just reading the notes again here, a living room in a chair, soft, comfy, doilies and all things feminine. The room, a mother's room. Basically, you know when you go around your, just any lovely old lady, you sit there, everything's all prim and proper, these lovely little doilies, tea gets, just like, funny that, isn't it? Just, bringing you crumble, all this feminine loveliness. It was like, you need a bit of that, because, you've been divorced a long time, you're doing all this crazy stuff, your mind's all like, you need a little bit of looking after. So, that's the end of that experience. And I've got here in my notes, flashback at night, 5th of the 3rd, 18, saw Aztec wheel and psychic vision of astral light before falling asleep. And she came, showed me a butterfly and a knife, said, or I can't be sure who said it, basically. It was communicated, butter knife. And I do remember there were a few experiences like this over the coming nights, and one of them was being swallowed by a great serpent. So you had the kind of undulating insides of the rainbow serpent. You were being taken within it. So I can't believe we've covered the next session so quickly, but there wasn't a lot to say about that one, was there?
Yeah, and because it wasn't as visually intense, you were able to make like better notes as well. Because the first one went on for hours and hours and hours, didn't it? And there was so much going on, and it was so new. So you're almost starting to master the art of the communication process. You were ready for it and able to,
so
information down.
We had the initial shock, and so the next time it was more smooth. But we do think that the delay in drinking the brew made it a little bit weaker.
Yeah.
So these visions, although they sound amazing, as from the notes here, these were just here and there. Most of the time we were kind of, you feel this, and then obviously he's drifting off to sleep, and so okay. What's the timer on? 38. We'll stop that. Have some crumble, and then we'll tackle the third session. What do you think?
Yeah, perfect.
And the first word of the third session is bad trip. So I think we'll see you there.